Happy Thursday, happy Thursday, happy Thursday, happy Thursday. It is Therapy Thursday. I'm Dr. Triffy. Every Thursday, except if something really weird is happening, I show up to teach skills and strategies, tips, and all in all, just good ways to help us think better so we can feel better and we can do better. Life is not always fun and comfortable and easy, but there are ways to make it better. Hmm. Tonight is a special night. Tonight is a special night for me. Today is actually a special day for me. And one of the reasons I'm sharing what I'm sharing tonight is because at least one of these books I'm talking about tonight had a major impact on my life. So today's 2/22, 2024. But on 2/22/22, I had a special plan. I had a plan to get married. Unfortunately for me, because life had other plans, my fiance died 2 months before. So today is an anniversary that is it's kind of yucky, but it's also an opportunity for me to transmute that painful energy to what I mean by transmute, I mean to create something different and hopefully something of a higher vibration than sadness. Yeah. Hi, Shahara. How are you? So, thank you for joining me. I speak like I speak because I have fought very hard to maintain my accent. I'm from Dominica in the Caribbean, not to be confused with the Dominican Republic. We don't speak Spanish, we speak English and the French Creole. And we also speak an English patois. And people call us the nature island of the Caribbean. So look at me. I live and I practice in Atlanta, Georgia, but Dominica is still home. So I talk about Dominica a lot. So welcome tonight because I want to share with you 5 books. 5 books. Y'all, you can get these books for less than $20. How much money would you spend to save yourself from the pain of divorce? How much money would you spend to save your home, or your 401k or your retirement and pension plan so that you don't have to split it with somebody that you're divorcing? What if all it took was less than $20? I'm going to show you how to do it tonight. I'm going to show you how to do it tonight. Hmm? And included in this list of 5 is a book that changed my life with Campy. Those of you who know about Campy, Campy is my fiance who 2/22/22 was our wedding day. Hmm? And one of those books brought us from the brink of, I never want to see you again. I never want to see you again. Yeah. So I want to share that with you tonight. And hopefully he's somewhere listening, right, y'all? Hopefully he's somewhere and smiling. Yeah. All right. So first book. First book, a lot of you have heard the name of this book. Hmm? The first book, can you guess? The first book is called The 5 Love Languages. Okay, so the author of that book is Gary Chapman, and Gary Chapman is a Baptist pastor, and he came up with the idea after he had counseled many couples over several years. And when he launched that book, when he wrote that book, can you believe this book has been translated into at least 49 different languages and sold over 20 million copies? Now, every anytime something does a book or a movie or something does that well, I think there's something there. I think there's something there. So what Gary says is that love is a choice that you make every day, and that we give love and we receive love in 5 main different ways. And if you're familiar with any of the ways, you can type them in the chat. But if you are coupled or if you are considering a relationship, For the long term, that's a committed relationship, that's a safe relationship that you want to build, that you want to grow in. The Five Love Languages is a book you want to read. Okay, so let's talk about those five languages of love, styles of love that we give and receive according to Gary Chapman. First one, words of affirmation. Words of affirmation. I know a lot of us, we hear the word affirmation these days, and affirmation is like a sentence, a phrase that you repeat, repeat, repeat. Yeah, it's a positive statement where you're trying to accomplish something beautiful. Yeah. So I am wise. I am at my healthiest weight is a love, those are lovely affirmations. But words of affirmations in a relationship, words of affirmation are words that encourage your person, words that affirm your person, make them feel good. Yeah, remind them of their strengths, words that appreciate your person, words that are focusing on empathizing with your person, as in trying to see where they're coming from. Yeah, where you're listening actively and you're using words to support your person and to build your person up versus the other thing that many people do. Yeah, we know that other thing, name calling, just really negative words. Words of affirmation. If you're going to invest the time with another human being, creating a relationship, concentrate on offering them words of affirmation. Second language is physical touch. Well, I think many people can relate to that. In fact, I think um, for a lot of people, that might be one of the easiest ways that they feel connected to another human being, feeling touched. It's nonverbal, it's using your body in a loving way towards the other person. Because again, we know physical touch can turn negative. In this instance, he's talking about using your body to express love, to express affection, to express warmth. Third language is that of receiving gifts. Receiving gifts. Getting little things. I mean, when he's talking about gifts, he's not talking about necessarily BMWs and jewelry, although those are lovely and nice, and we say yes to those. But he's talking about being thoughtful, yeah, considerate, making your spouse, making your person a priority, and doing these little, nice little things for your person. It could be a Snickers bar, could be an O. Henry, it could be a one single rose. Yeah, many of us love receiving gifts, and we feel loved when we receive gifts. The next one is quality time. Notice he didn't say time. He didn't say time because, we can be together but be very separate. Even though we're in the same space and it seems as if we're spending time. But he's talking about uninterrupted time that is focused, yeah, on talking with and talking to each other. Time where even if we're not talking, we feel connected. We feel connected. Okay. The next one, the last one, is acts of service. Some of us feel loved when people do things for us. Yeah. So we might do our chores together. If one person feels overwhelmed by the chores, yeah, that person might feel so good if the other person does the dishes, for example. Or you go and you take care of the person's car, you get them their oil change. Yeah. You take it to the car wash the car. Some people feel very good when they receive acts of service. Okay. So what he's saying is you want to pay attention in the beginning, to learn the other person and to have learned yourself, to know yourself so that you can offer the other person information about you as to what you like and what you prefer. Now, according to Mr. Chapman, some people have a leading style, like a leading love language. Some people have more than one, some people have all of it. But how do we find that out? We find that out by communicating, by talking, by asking, by sharing. Yeah. Now, there's some research to support his work, but I was reading an article recently where there's a little bit of uh, pushback, yeah, on his theory of how to give and receive love. But some research suggests, think about this, y'all, touch, the idea of touch. There are many kids in homes, right, where if they've not been touched, these kids fail to thrive. Essentially, they wither away. So, touch is very, very important, especially for a romantic relationship. Yeah, especially for a romantic relationship. Tactile, touching, feeling the other person, even if it's in a non sexual way. And I would dare say, especially if it's in a non sexual way, because that is how many people feel connected before they even are willing to say yes to sexual touch. Okay. There are people in nursing homes who do the same as kids in homes where they're not getting touch, where they're not feeling physical hugs, touches, pats, kisses. These people are many people will die. Many people will wither away without touch. And so the idea of touching in a relationship is central, is central. Gift giving is, I mean, who does not want to receive? Who does not enjoy receiving? Very few people say they don't like you to give them things. There are some people who will say that, yeah. But many people feel good if they receive something. Now, there's research to show even if the thing you receive is a small thing, that prompts you to want to reciprocate to the other person. So, in a relationship, if I'm receiving, often it prompts me to reciprocate. So, we have a nice flow, yeah, back and forth, as opposed to one sided situations. Again, I like Sprinkle Sprinkle Lady, but Sprinkle Sprinkle Lady does say that her teachings are for people who want to get a particular kind of man. Yeah, Sprinkle Sprinkle Lady. If you don't know who she is, please go to YouTube, check her out. She talks about a very unique, not a, but very unique strategies to connect with men who have a lot of money. But if you're looking for a meaningful relationship where you want to like who you're with and you're really paying attention to building a solid relationship, you've got to be willing to reciprocate when you receive. Yeah. People tend to think more highly of people who do things in return when they offer them something or when they give them something. Okay. So, Gary Chapman's The Five Love Languages. If you don't have it in your library as a couple, you might want to read it. You might want to read it. All right. The second book is called Anchored. Anchored, as in an anchor of a boat. What does an anchor of a boat do? It keeps the boat in place. Yeah. If you grew up in Dominica like me, you're familiar with the sea and boats, and boats have anchors, heavy metal, lead, or whatever they use, but we use lead. Yeah, in the Caribbean, in Dominica, I grew up with our fishermen using lead to keep the boat in place so that when the waves come, it stays anchored. So, what does that book talk about? The title of the book is Anchored How to befriend your nervous system using polyvagal theory. Okay, now what is polyvagal theory? Polyvagal theory focuses on the function of what's called your vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve is one of the most important nerves in your body, goes all the way down your body, and it's connected to emotional regulation, social connection, and your fear response in your nervous system. Why is that important? Think about it. Do you know the two biggest emotions we experience in relationships? I would venture to say fear, anxiety, hmm, and anger, in addition to love. Yeah. Fear. If they're doing something we don't like, if we don't know what they're going to do, we become anxious, afraid. They did something and we were afraid they'd do it again because it hurt us a lot, or we felt hurt when it happened. Fear, anger, when that happens. Now, if you have not learned the skills to manage your emotions, especially your more painful, heavy emotions, if you have not learned the skills, you are not a good mate. You won't make a good mate. You won't make a good partner if you have not learned how to manage your emotions. Now, unfortunately for us human beings, by the time we become adults, we've been bruised and hurt and swung left, right, and center by parents, perhaps, by communities, by societies, by people we related with. And we've learned ways to respond to stress that are not in our best interest. For example, we might have learned to run away when something, when we feel afraid in response to something. Yeah. Or we might have learned to argue, to fight. Hmm? Or we might have learned to just freeze, shut down. We're just not going to talk about it. But how effective is that for a successful relationship? We got to learn how to manage what we're feeling. Yeah, manage what we're feeling and respond in a way that is in our best interest, where we get our needs met and where the other person doesn't get brutalized by our emotions. Okay, so we've got to learn how to soothe ourselves. What are some ways to soothe yourself? Start with your breath. Your breath is primary. Learn how to breathe. I was teaching a gentleman today. Learn how to breathe in through your nose, into your diaphragm, into your stomach, essentially. You're breathing in, you're taking in as much oxygen as you can. Yeah. When we do that practice, what ends up happening is we trigger our heart rate to slow down. Yeah. Long, slow, deep breaths. Yeah. They trigger your heart rate to slow down. What happens if your heart thinks there's nothing to worry about? Is you calm down. So even if the world is falling apart in front of you, your person does something that is just infuriating because it's perhaps triggered the little child in you. Yeah. Before you address the situation, perhaps you might take a break and go, calm yourself down. Calm yourself down. Yeah. You might go walk around the lake. Yeah. You might go exercise. You might go do some yoga. But you take care of yourself first before you bring yourself in a state of rage to your person. It's not good for you, and it's not good for them. You want to know how much this book costs? This book you can get for about $15, brand new. And you know on Amazon you can get these books at a much reduced rate if you're buying it used from someone. Book number 3 is called Non Communication. Complete title is Nonviolent Communication, a Language of Life, Life-Changing Tools for Healthy Relationships. Prices range from $6.49 to save your 401k and your house and to have access to your kids and your grandkids. $6.49. Mm? Are you willing to spend $6 to save a relationship? So, nonviolent communication, it's a communication strategy that emphasizes how we can talk with other people in a way that avoids judging them and therefore stirring up conflict. Because what happens when I feel judged? I get defensive. If I think you're coming at me sideways, my brain's job is to prepare to defend me. So, how can you change the way you're talking to me so that you can communicate your needs and I can receive it in a way that's not as threatening? That's what this book is talking about. It's called Nonviolent Communication, a Language of Life, Life-Changing Tools for Healthy Relationships. And the author is Marshall Rosenberg. Okay? It's also called Compassionate Communication. You get to say what you want to say. You just learn how to say what you want to say in a different way to increase the likelihood of a positive outcome with somebody you have vowed to love. And so I would think that that is number one on your list. If you vow to love a person and you realize that the way you're talking to the person, it's not going anywhere. You're not getting your needs met. You stay mad at each other for 2 weeks, a week, a night. All of us know how painful that is. Yeah. Well, how does nonviolent communication work? Instead of evaluating and judging your person, you just observe the behavior and you start learning how to just say what you see. So you're just describing the action that you see. And I'll give you a few examples in a minute. You focus on stating your feelings, not how you have decided they made you feel, because they cannot make you feel. You describe your emotional response to their words or their actions or non-actions. And then you express your needs because you have a right to express your needs. And in relationships, that's what we're there to learn. We're there to learn how to express our needs and to have our needs be met. And once we express those needs, we can ask, we can make a request for that thing that the person said or did or didn't to be perhaps done in a different way so that we can feel better or we can feel good. So the first skill is to observe without evaluating or judging. So let me give you an example. Let's suppose you and your person, you're supposed to go somewhere, like you're supposed to leave the house at 4 o'clock in the morning because you have a long trip, or it's afternoon and it's after school and the kids have a play at school or some performance, they have a game, and you all are supposed to leave at 4. And that person is, in your mind, they're fooling around, but really the behavior is, or the thing is, it's 4 o'clock and they're not ready. So you might say to your mate, "You're always late." What is that? Are you setting up a fight to tell your person you're always late, or you're always this, or you're never that? Of course you are. Yeah. So what you were just doing is, instead of observing what was happening, as in noticing that it is, baby, it's 4 o'clock and we have to be there at 4:30. You saying to your person you are always or you're never is setting you all up. because you just judged them, you just evaluated them, you just put something on them. Hmm? So instead, you might say something like, babe, it's 4 and we agreed to leave at 4 and it's 4 now. Hmm? Just say that, just describe. We agreed, we have an agreement to leave at 4. It's 4 o'clock now. So you state the facts instead of making just sweeping generalizations and accusations, which a lot of us are good at. Yeah. So by observing, what you're doing is you're not assuming. You're just observing and describing what you're seeing. You're talking to your person and they're on their phone. You're trying to get some thoughts and feelings out. They're on their phone. They're watching Dr. Triffy on Facebook. You're trying to tell them about the horrible thing that happened to you at work today. You might say to them, why don't you ever listen to me? You're not listening to me. Well, that's an assumption, isn't it? Because maybe they're listening to Dr. Triffy, but they're also listening to you. Maybe they're playing solitaire and they're also listening to you. So it's an evaluation and an assumption. Those tend to go sideways. So instead, just describe what you're seeing. Tell them, babe, soften it up, sweeten it up. I can see that you're texting on your phone. I can see that you're watching something on your phone while I'm speaking to you. You didn't make any determinations as to what they were actually doing. You see them texting on their phone, or they're watching their phone, or they're doing whatever it is they're doing, and you also are speaking to them. So just say that. If this is clean, yeah, it's not charged with any words like you are XYZ. It's just noticing what the other person is doing, and you're just describing it. Yeah. Okay, here's another example. You might tell your person if you see them, like let's suppose there's some of us, you'll see people clenching their jaw, or you might see them and hear them breathing fast. So you might realize they might be getting a little upset, but you don't know that for sure. They're just breathing fast. Or their fists are just clenched. So instead of you saying, there you go, you're getting mad again. Look at you, you're getting angry again. Please no, because you're going to set the person off. Yeah. Because you just accuse them and you're just trying to tell them what they're feeling. A lot of us don't like that. So again, just describe what you're seeing. And I say babe at the beginning because, come on, if you're in a committed relationship with a person, whatever name you call your person to soften the person up, that's what you use. Okay. Because we understand that this is hard and charged stuff. Yeah. So if you're trying to get a better outcome, use all the skills you have. So, babe, I can see your arms are crossed, and then your face is, I see your jaws kind of tightening up. You're clenching your jaw. Am I right that you might be angry? Ask the person, are you okay? Am I right that you don't like what I just said? So you're asking for clarification as opposed to telling your person, yeah, I know you. I know you when you get like that. I know you. Yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying? All right. So if your person says, yes, I'm angry, you might then go deeper, but allow your person the opportunity to tell you what they're feeling or thinking before you tell them, oh, you're always getting angry. There you go. I see you. I see you. I know you're getting mad again. Okay. So those are ways we can speak in a cleaner way, like less emotionally charged and less accusatory ways of talking to people we say we love. Okay. And state your feelings. Yes, people do things and we have emotional responses like anger and fear and sadness and worry and whatever. And of course, it's important to share that with the other person. So state your feelings, not what they made you feel, your feelings. We were supposed to leave at 4. I feel anxious that we haven't left yet. Share your feelings. That's it. If you grew up in the Caribbean, you might want to go on a 20-minute long winded speech and bring up everything that they did 2 years ago. Leave it alone. Stop. Do it in a different way from tonight. Okay? Just tell the other person what you're feeling. It is 4 now. We said we were leaving at 4. I feel anxious. I feel worried that we might be late. That's it. And that's enough if we're trying to communicate in a non-violent way. Okay? So you might even go further, especially if maybe the person's response is not, they don't look like they're doing too much. Yeah? You might say, I feel anxious and I feel dismissed. I feel, and ask, make a request. What do you think about? What do you think about as you're making the request? Or how do you feel about? How do you feel? What do you think? Because we cannot, well, we can try, but we set ourselves up for a lot of back and forth when we try to command or demand that our spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend does something. That's how we set each other up when we believe we have a right to make these demands. Now, some people, I just talked about these stress responses we have. Some people will argue, they'll fight. Some people will freeze and shut down. They won't talk. And you might think you've won, but they're seething beneath. Quiet. Okay? Some people might run away, escape. They might leave you and take half of your pension because they're tired of that kind of languaging when you're talking to them. Okay? There are differences in, it's a different thing to express your feelings versus to tell somebody they made you feel something. So something like, you make me mad. No, I feel angry. That's different. You make me mad, accusatory. You're setting up the other person to become defensive. Change it to how you feel. I feel angry. It's okay to claim your anger. You have a right to feel what you feel. Yeah? You're hurting me. Well, if they're not hurting you physically, if they're squeezing your hand, that's a different thing. But you're hurting me when you do this. No, I feel hurt when you do this. I feel. The person's on their phone, you're ignoring me. No, they're watching Facebook. I feel ignored by you when I talk to you and you're watching something else. I feel frustrated. I feel sad versus you make me feel sad or you frustrate me. No, because if it was somebody else standing in front of them, that person might not be feeling the same thing you're feeling, even though they were doing the same thing. So it's okay to own up to our feelings. Yeah? You have a right to feel frustrated. And the thing about it is, in relationships, the author of the book that I'm going to talk to you all about, that's the book that saved us, right? That's the book that saved us. One of his theories is that that's the purpose of the relationship. The purpose of a relationship that's committed and safe is to give two people an opportunity to experience safety in practicing and learning these skills, where they feel good about who they are as they are. And that takes time. That takes a lot of navigating back and forth with each other. But that's the purpose of the relationship. If you didn't feel comfortable expressing your feelings, the purpose of the relationship is to give you that opportunity to, over time, learn how to express your feelings and own your feelings. Okay? So you remove, you did this. You made me feel. You made me feel before any thing is just X that out. X it out, erase it from the board of your mind, and turn it around. And whatever it is you're feeling, own it. I feel, hmm? I feel anxious because it's 4 o'clock and we said we were leaving at 4. And leave it there. And let the other person do what they got to do with it. So you've expressed your needs. Yes, and you've expressed your needs in a way that is not putting your feelings or responsibility for your feelings onto the other person. And you've made a request. You ask for what you would prefer. What do you think? You're asking, you're not telling, you're not demanding, you're not commanding. You're not commanding. Somebody's going to be quite unhappy, even if they go along with what you just said, even if they go along with your commands. Somebody's going to be quite unhappy, and some of them will make you pay for it for weeks and months to come. It doesn't have to be that way. Yeah? Doesn't have to be that way. All right. Next book on our list, book number 4, is the book. I'll save it for last. I'll save that one for last. I'm going to offer a book that I was going to keep for last. But it's a book that if after you've done all you can, you still can't make it work with someone and you all got a divorce, you have to divorce or you've got to break up. It's a way to break up. Okay? It's a way to break up. Some of us, we break up, and when we break up, we kind of go into a thing where we're trying to stay connected, but in a negative. We're trying to stay connected. We're still in love. There's still energy there in the relationship. But because we're not together anymore, we do a lot of things with that, with those feelings that we have left inside of us. So instead of processing the feelings, instead of feeling them and talking about them, crying about them, we do a lot of nasty things. We might keep the babies away from dad, or we might not give mom money to take care of the kids because we're really trying to stay connected to mom, even if the way we stay connected to mom is that she's furious with us. So this book is called Conscious Uncoupling. Conscious Uncoupling. It's 5 steps to living happily ever after. And the author is Catherine Woodward Thomas. You can get this book used and new, $3.76. So you can save your 401k and all your money, all and your house and your kids with $3.76. Here are some ideas from the book. So the author says, like I just said, many of us were tempted to create a negative bond to replace the positive bond we used to have with the person when we break up. She says some people go from soulmates to soul hates. And what we do is, instead of feeling the pain and doing what it takes to move on, to grieve the loss, we might stay stuck in ruminating, in rage, in a lot of frustration, in a lot of the darker energies. And instead of feeling those things, we project it out onto our partners. And that stuff, we rope other people in. We talk to that person's friends and tell them how horrible they were, who they cheated with, who they didn't cheat with. We go far. Yeah? We go far. And we can become super toxic. No, we can, as in we have a choice. We can do that if we want. But you've got to think, why would you dishonor the relationship that you were a year ago boasting about? Why would you do that? When, as this book suggests, if you navigate a breakup well, you actually heal. and learn, because you will do the work to look for your part in the breakup, because it's always a two-way street. It takes two to tango. It takes two to tango. And if you're in a relationship now and you want to see what you need to do, what skills, emotional skills you need to be cultivating now to avoid a breakup, this book is good for you. Okay? This book is good for you. I mean, everybody understands this. When we break up, when we break up, for the most part, there's a void and an empty space. It's dark. Yeah, it's painful. A lot of us are in pain, and some for a long time. You lose friends, you lose money, you lose kids, you lose rituals you used to have. Yeah, certain things you did on Fridays at this time. Yeah, so it's very destabilizing and disorienting. But you can learn how to move through it together. I've actually counseled couples who were doing that, who were divorcing. And before the divorce was final, they came to me and they wanted to break up well. They wanted to, and they succeeded. It wasn't always pretty, y'all, but they were brave enough to do the work. So this book says that you've got to learn how to find your emotional freedom as a human being. And you've got to learn to claim and reclaim your power and your life. Yeah? You've got to learn how to connect to a deeper part within you. Remember who you are. Learn yourself again. You have to learn how to break patterns, old patterns that contributed to the breakup, because it's a two-way street. Hmm? And some of us might say, well, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. They were just cheating on me, you know? They were just cheating on me. Well, sometimes when we look back, we see that this was a person perhaps we didn't need to say yes to in the beginning. So our choice, our choosing was off. So that's where some of us are culpable and responsible. And so if you're willing to break that pattern, you will do the work so that you'll see what you did and what you didn't do and how you can do it in a different way next time. Yeah. So your job is to reset your life. And if you're at a hard place in a relationship that's been a long term relationship, this is a good book. I mean, go face it, face the abyss, right? Look and see the precipice that you're getting ready perhaps to jump into and see what you might be able to do. Just kind of backpedal, re engineer it. Yeah. Start from the end and reverse and see, well, where do I need to make some adjustments? Because anytime one person makes an adjustment, there's a response, there's a corresponding response. I mean, so it's a physical law that if I do something different, that triggers a different reaction and response in someone. So I'm going to share with you now my favorite book on relationships. Why? Because even if I'm a psychologist and people say that to you, they say, oh, yeah, I bet you everything is fine in your life. I bet you. No, it's not, because I'm a human being with flesh and blood. So Camps and I came to that point where we were like, I was sure I was done, finished, finito. Yeah, 5 years in and done. Okay. And although I'm the psychologist, he found the resource. So he found a couples therapist who I grudgingly said yes to go to. Because, again, when you see you mad, you're like, mm. So he found the resource. And we did a workshop. We did a couples workshop with several other couples. And that's the format that this book uses. There's also individuals workshop over a weekend, and it turned things around because we got to see where we were making the mistakes, and we got to see that these mistakes were actually what the relationship was set up for. So the author of the book is Harville Hendrix, and the title of the book is Getting the Love You Want. And there are workshops based on the book and the premise. So, a relationship between two people, point, the highest purpose of a relationship is for two people to get to know themselves individually, better, and to get to know the other person, yes. But in getting to know yourself and understanding yourself well, you can become a better partner. So there are some of us in relationships that we are the one that's seeking the intimacy, and the other person is the loner. Like they don't need as much affection, attention. If you pay attention to your history, you see where that starts. You see where that started. You see where that started. And this process, this book, Getting the Love You Want, helps you identify where those unmet needs in you started. No, a need as an adult, it's not a bad thing, y'all. We just are who we have become based on our experiences, based on who trained us, based on what we were exposed to. And we had no control over that, but we do now. And a relationship that is committed is an ideal place to do that. And that takes courage, doesn't it? Y'all, I'm telling you, think about it. I'm the one that's used to, I mean, for 30 years, I'm teaching other people about relationships. I'm telling them to try this skill, da 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 da, these, that, and the other. And I am the one vulnerable sitting and listening to other people teach me how to become my better self in the relationship, mm, to support the union. So here are some ideas from Harville Hendrix. So he says, whether you realize the full potential of the marriage vision depends not on your ability to attract the perfect mate, but on your willingness to acquire knowledge about hidden parts of yourself. All of us have these hidden parts of ourselves. All of us, all of us have these hidden parts of ourselves. And a marriage relationship or a safe, committed relationship is the ideal place for us to learn those parts of ourselves. But here's the thing, because these parts of ourselves are hidden in our unconscious parts, we're unconscious to them. Yeah. Many of these beliefs, needs we, started having, they started off in childhood. And so to as we become adults, we essentially you forget it. They go somewhere where they're not present to us. And a lot of us, we will argue a person down if they tell us they see XYZ in us. But if we're willing to pay attention, we might see what they're seeing. But that takes courage. And that takes, if we're willing to be in relationship, that takes being willing to go all the way through to the end, where you really get to love the person. Because what he says is, we do this thing where we meet and we have attraction, which is pure chemistry. Chemistry as in biology. Okay? Your brain likes this person. And he says, for a lot of us, our old brain likes this person. What's the old brain? The old brain is the emotional brain, which is the childish brain, you know, based on who raised us. Yeah, that part of ourselves. And so the enlightenment comes from the rational brain, where we move through stuff with common sense, and forgiveness and grace and being willing to be uncomfortable. Because although we start off with attraction, the relationship must get, he says it must, because that's part of the job of a relationship. I'm telling you, the therapist said to us, and I was in shock. He said that what we were doing, as in thinking that the relationship was over, was actually part of the relationship. And that most relationships come to a crisis point, and it is in that crisis point where, if both people are willing, it's got to be two to be willing to do the work to figure it out, that's when you move to love. That's when you move to love, because you've got to come to the power struggle. Something else that this book suggests is that most of us, in most relationships, the power struggle is going to show up when we feel safe in the relationship. So when you have a big commitment, like you decide, okay, we're not just dating anymore or seeing other people, we're committed. Power struggle shows up because it's two-sided. It's almost as if, well, I feel safe enough now to be my real self, but also my shadow self, like my old parts of me, are starting to feel anxious because it is safe. Yeah. So if you know this stuff from the beginning, do you not see how when it shows up, you won't be as horrified or as ready to end it, but willing to now reach out and say, okay, well, I guess this is the point where we go to the couples workshop. And I must say, in Dominica, we say "Mon senti honte." Senti honte means I've got to give camps credit for being the one to find the resource, because yeah, I was ashamed that it wasn't me, the psychologist, who found the relationship saving resource. Because yes, when you're going through it, in the middle of it, when you get to that point, yeah, there are many of us who are like, that's it, the end. I'm not doing this. Sometimes, because of our response to stress, if our response is shut down, there are a lot of us who won't come out of the shutdown place. Yeah, there's some people who will fight, and so you see some people who are like, I'm going to fight for our relationship. Yeah, and some of us will shut down, or we flee, we escape, we just cut it off, and we disengage completely. Yeah, so you want to know yourself. You want to know yourself. It is, uh, as Shahara says, it's called an imago process. Okay, he calls it imago therapy. I mean, this is powerful stuff, and I'm so I want to use today to share it, to talk about it, because I know from personal experience how impactful it was. And as I say, Kempi is gone right now, but I think one of the biggest gifts we gave to each other was getting to that point. So doing the work, very painful work, where you've got to learn what your other person's unmet need is. So for example, some of us, we want people to listen to us because we grew up with parents who, by personality, would interrupt our conversations, or wouldn't let us speak. They shut us down quickly. And if you have a partner who's not willing to see that, it is so painful for the other person. But again, if you understand the purpose of a romantic relationship, it's not just about physical touch. You know where I'm going with this. Or it's not just for sprinkle, sprinkle, a sugar daddy, where you can really come to true union with another person. And on a selfish level, self-centered level, get to know your real self. Get to know your real self. Get to know your real self. What ends up happening is both people end up getting healed from their childhood wounds. Both people. And it goes back and forth. It goes back and forth. What saves it is commitment to the union. Commitment to the union and understanding that if you had to do this romantic relationship experience with somebody else, you would have to go through the same phases. So a lot of people, we will jump out of the committed relationship, like I said, when we get to that point, but we don't realize we have to do the same process with somebody that we might be attracted to outside of the union. So it's like you're almost interrupting your growth when you keep jumping from relationship to relationship when you get to the hard part. So, my encouragement tonight is to understand it from the front end. You've got to go to study on Georgia Department of Transportation or DOR or whatever it is you got to go on before you get a license to drive a car. Mm. Even if you want to cook in a restaurant, some people got to go get their Serve Safe certification. You got to get certifications for everything. Okay, understandably, the system does not force us to get certified to become married, but for your great grandchildren's best interest, for your bank book, mm, your checkbook, and for your little heart's best interest, I will recommend these books. Okay? And I promise you that from personal experience that this stuff works. Okay? So thank you all for listening. I'm going to take some of your comments and questions. Shahara, my sister, thank you. Shahara says, that imago process that I'm speaking about, you get to see the big picture, but you have to be willing to stay in the process. You get to see why you came together with that person for sure. And for some of us, it might be to learn to be a supportive person to somebody else. Yeah. Or it might be to receive support. Or it might be to remember how to feel whole for some of us. It might be how to feel heard. Yeah. Shahara says, I love you. I love you back. I love you back. It is commitment to the union. There's some marriage and family therapists who will tell you it's not necessarily commitment to the other human being because we know that we are all flawed. But you commit to the relationship, you commit to the union, and you do the work to create and to build this new thing together. Deacon Ramona Denard says, I'd say pay attention to the loner because it could mean that the person actually does need you, but they don't know that yet, or they don't have the language. Yeah, from their childhood experiences, they don't have the language to tell you they need you, or they need more. They need more touch, they need more quality time, they need more gifts. There's some people who actually make you feel bad. Well, they don't make you feel bad, but they say things meant to hurt if you're a person who likes gifts, or if you're a person who likes touch. You're too clingy. Hmm? You're too greedy. You want too much of my time. But again, that person who's responding in that way, according to Harville Hendrix, might have a need for more solitude and might feel just put upon if they were with a partner who is quote unquote clingy, not realizing that they actually chose this person with that personality for them to learn that lesson of being able to hold more clinginess, yeah, to be with other people more. So he says we choose our people. We choose our people, and the more attraction you feel for someone, perhaps the more lessons you've got to learn with that someone. Yeah. And if you're willing, you will. If both of you are willing, you will learn the lessons and both people will become better. Ramona says it makes them uncomfortable knowing they need someone. Exactly. What is uncomfortable? Uncomfortable is anxiety. Where do we get anxiety? Anxiety is a stress response. Perhaps in childhood or along the way before they got to us, they had some really nasty experiences with connecting. Yeah. And so they have to, within the safety of the relationship, learn to do more, do more, do more, do more. Again, the theory is that they end up choosing people who really need, who really need their attention to pull them into more balance. Yeah, into more balance. Ramona says, if I were to do it over, I'd pay more attention to my spouse and ignore his expressions of self sufficiency because we're all human. You are making sense. You are making sense. And a lot of people do that. Oh, I'm good. Oh, I don't need anything when they're desperate, but they don't have the language to ask or they feel anxious about asking. And so, in the safety of the relationship, the one who feels okay reaching out more, be yourself. Be yourself. Yeah. And communicate. Communicate. Express. 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 Jackie says, good night, Doc. Good night to you too, Jackie. I hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. Bonsoir, Indigenous Bushman. Sac passé, sac à fait. Comment ça va? Ça va bien? Ken says, take you as an example. Are you in a relationship when you answer the first question? Okay, I didn't understand that one, Ken. Princess Jen says good night. Good night to you too. Good night, Petra. My friend says Dr. Tonton. Good night. You all know what Tonton is? Who knows what Tonton is? Mm. Good night, Veronica. Pleasant evening to you too. Good night, Hermia. How are you? Ramona says, I read the books, I listened to the podcast, I prayed, yet here I am. It does indeed take two. And sometimes the other person is just so, their stress response is and their old patterns, those childhood patterns are so, I mean, they're strong. And so even with all of your attempts, the other person just might not buy in, which is why I think we need to be educated about relationships first. Yeah, spend the time learning yourself, learning your love languages, what you like, what you don't like, so that you can communicate that in the dating phase. But it's not always easy to get information. I mean, we don't know what we don't know, and a lot of us, if we get married young, we perhaps didn't have enough time to learn that information. Yeah. Yes. So the point, essentially, y'all, the point of relationships, according to many relationship theorists and therapists, is to heal our childhood wounds. And some say that we choose people who actually, in our old brain, in our emotional brain, the part that we are unconscious about, we choose people who are very similar in many ways to our parents because they give us the opportunity to heal and to conquer, to overcome evil. Okay? So read, 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 listen to the podcasts, yeah, listen to the audio books, and take in the information so that you're not blindsided or you don't think, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong. What is going on here? Like I say, I mean, I've read many books, but I had not read that one. And it was very great to get the information. Thank you, Simone. Hermia is good. All right, y'all. I hope you all have a wonderful night. I'm going to end on this comment here by Shahira, which I said already, but it's commitment to the union. It's commitment to the thing we are creating together. Yeah. And doing the work, because it's going to take work beyond the brain chemistry, beyond the oxytocin and the dopamine and all the fancy hormones that go into overdrive. when you just meet a person and you're in the attraction phase, that's going to burn out. I remember hearing that when I was very young. My Catholic church, we had a lot of youth group trainings. Da, 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 da. So I remember hearing that, and I was like, oh, "Come on, that's not true. That's," but it is true. It is true. Life has borne it out. Okay, it is true, and I think information, having access to the resources, then, like I said, we have to study to pass to get our driver's license, but we don't do anything much for relationship training. They just kind of leave us on our own, and then they wonder why the divorce rates are so high. But um, it is vital. I think it is vital for both people to put in the time. Pre commitment, even before we say, yes, we're going to be together. Okay? I want to know, are you familiar with the love languages? What's your love language? Unless you don't know, well, here's a book. Let's read. Let's read it together. It's an activity. Let's read it together. Here's another one. Okay? So I hope you all have a lovely night, and I wish you the best in your relationships, because relationships foundationally support the rest of everything else that we do. Okay? Because that's where we make babies and create new life, and we save a lot of money, and we build houses, and we build 401ks, like I said, and pension plans, the stuff that matters when we die. All right? All right, y'all. Happy Thursday. Nous que parler une autre fois. We will talk another time. Peace.